Imagine your old roommate left behind not just junk, but an entire way of life, rules, routines, and a lingering sense of dread that seeps into every corner. The furniture is outdated, the wallpaper is peeling, but it's the invisible things, the habits, the unspoken rules, the sense of what's possible and what isn't, that really stick around. You can throw out the old chairs, but the feeling of being watched, of having to follow certain routines, is much harder to shake. That's modern Russia, still living with the ghost of the Soviet Union. The skyline may have changed, with glass towers rising next to concrete blocks, but the past lingers in the air, shaping how people think, act, and even dream. The USSR collapsed in 1991, but you can't just delete 70 years of habits, fears, and expectations overnight. The world watched as the Soviet flag came down, but for millions, the change was more complicated than a simple switch. The routines, the suspicion, the sense of living under a powerful, watchful state, these things don't vanish with a new government. The old system keeps running in the background like a stubborn virus you can't uninstall. It's there in the bureaucracy, in the way decisions are made, in the reluctance to trust outsiders or embrace change. Even as new technology arrives, the old mindset lingers, quietly influencing everything. It's not just about statues or street names, it's a mindset. The idea that the state knows best, that ambition is suspicious, and that standing out can be dangerous. These beliefs are woven into daily life, passed down from parents to children, reinforced by stories, jokes, and warnings. And then there's the ever-present sense that the outside world is always a threat. Decades of propaganda and real conflict have left a mark, making suspicion of foreigners and outside ideas almost second nature. These aren't just historical quirks. They shape Russia's politics, economy, and daily life. From how leaders are chosen, to how people shop, to how they talk about the future, the Soviet legacy is everywhere, sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden. So as we look at Russia today, it's impossible to understand what's happening without looking back. The cityscapes may change, but the invisible architecture of thought and habit remains. Why does a country with so much potential, so many resources and talented people seem stuck in a loop, repeating old patterns? Why do new opportunities so often get tangled in old fears? Because the Soviet ghost is still in the machine. It haunts the institutions, the conversations, and even the dreams of a new generation, making real change slow and difficult. Understanding this ghost, how it shapes choices, limits possibilities, and colors every hope for the future, is the key to understanding Russia's present and perhaps its future as well. Only by facing these invisible legacies can Russia truly move forward. The Soviet curse isn't some spooky legend or a tale whispered in the dark. It's a set of deeply ingrained habits and mindsets that Russia, even decades after the fall of the USSR, just can't seem to shake off. It's like a shadow that lingers, shaping the way people think, act, and relate to their country and each other. At its core, the Soviet curse is a profound, almost instinctive distrust of government, of neighbors, of the free market, and especially of the West. This suspicion didn't appear overnight. It was learned over generations, forged in an environment where lies, surveillance, and paranoia were part of daily life. Even today, many Russians are wary of official narratives, and skepticism is almost a survival skill. Economically, the curse is the belief that the state should control everything important. For decades, the Soviet system drilled into people that only the government could be trusted to manage resources, jobs, and industry. The idea of private enterprise or free competition was seen as dangerous, even subversive. When the USSR collapsed, the sudden rush to privatize state assets was chaotic and often corrupt. Instead of creating a thriving market economy, it led to a new elite of oligarchs and a public that felt cheated. Today, the state has reasserted control over key industries like oil, gas, and media, reinforcing the old belief that the government must always be in charge. So what's left isn't really communism anymore. It's more like kleptocracy, government by thieves, where power and wealth are concentrated in the hands of a few, and corruption is a fact of life. The rules of the game haven't changed much, only the players have. Socially, the Soviet curse shows up as apathy and nostalgia. There's a widespread sense that nothing can really change no matter who's in charge. At the same time, there's a longing for the stability of the Soviet era, a time when, at least in memory, everyone had a job, a home, and a sense of order, even if it came at the cost of freedom. Why bother voting if the system is rigged and the outcome is already decided? Many people feel their voices don't matter. so political participation is low and cynicism is high. Why try to get ahead if standing out just makes you a target for scrutiny or envy? Ambition is often seen as risky, and success can bring unwanted attention from authorities or rivals. The result is a toxic mix of resignation and yearning for a past that, in reality, was never as good as people remember. It's a cycle of disappointment and nostalgia, where hope for real change is always just out of reach. The Soviet curse is like a default setting that Russia keeps snapping back to, no matter how many times someone tries to reboot the system. New leaders, new policies, new technologies, none of it seems to fully break the old patterns. In the end, it's the hardest habit to break, a legacy of the past that continues to shape the present, and perhaps the future as well. Russian politics today is like a Soviet tribute band. Same strongman leader, same rubber stamp parliament, same tightly controlled media. The cult of the strong leader is alive and well. Putin is cast as the only man who can hold Russia together, just like the old Soviet bosses. State media pumps out propaganda, painting Russia as a besieged fortress. Independent journalism, systematically dismantled. Elections exist, but real competition doesn't. It's the illusion of choice, a classic Soviet trick. The titles have changed, but power is still concentrated at the top. The playbook is old, but the graphics are new. Dissent isn't just discouraged, it's treated as betrayal. The Soviet curse means the system keeps repeating itself, just with better production values. In Russia, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The Soviet economic model was a disaster. Central planning led to shortages and surpluses of all the wrong things. In the Soviet Union, bureaucrats in distant offices decided what should be produced, how much, and for whom. This top-down approach ignored the real needs and desires of ordinary people. The result? Store shelves were often empty of essentials, while warehouses overflowed with things nobody wanted. Factories churned out products that didn't work, and innovation was stifled by endless red tape. The system was rigid, unresponsive, and ultimately unsustainable. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the 1990s brought wild, chaotic capitalism. Suddenly, the rules changed overnight. State assets were sold off in a frenzy, and a handful of well-connected individuals, later known as oligarchs, snapped up entire industries for pennies on the dollar. For most Russians, though, this era meant uncertainty, poverty, and a daily struggle to survive. The social safety net vanished, and millions found themselves out of work or waiting in long lines for basic necessities. The gap between rich and poor widened dramatically. The chaos of the 1990s seemed to confirm old suspicions. Capitalism, many believed, was just another way for the rich to get richer while everyone else suffered. Memories of Soviet propaganda warning about the dangers of Western markets suddenly felt relevant. Protests erupted, and many Russians longed for the stability, if not the prosperity, of the past. So, the state took back control. The government promised order, stability, and a return to national pride. Under new leadership, the Kremlin reasserted its authority over the economy, vowing to protect ordinary citizens from the chaos of unregulated markets. Today, Russia's economy looks like a market on the surface, with stock exchanges, private companies, and glossy business districts. But beneath this modern facade, the state still calls the shots. Major decisions are made in government offices, not boardrooms, and the Kremlin's influence is never far away. Key industries, like energy, banking, and media, are run by Kremlin loyalists, not independent entrepreneurs. These leaders owe their positions to political connections, not business acumen or innovation. The state ensures that strategic sectors remain firmly under its control. In this environment, political connections matter far more than business plans or creative ideas. Success often depends on who you know, not what you can build. Deals are made in back rooms, and loyalty to those in power is the surest path to prosperity. If your business succeeds, you risk losing it to someone more powerful. Corporate raiding is a direct descendant of the old Soviet suspicion that private success is suspect. Entrepreneurs who grow too successful may find themselves targeted by rivals with better political connections or even by the state itself. The result? A system where building something lasting is risky and innovation is stifled. Many talented Russians leave the country, seeking opportunities elsewhere, while those who stay often play it safe, avoiding bold new ventures. The Soviet curse keeps real economic freedom out of reach. Despite the changes on the surface, the legacy of central control and suspicion of private initiative still shapes the Russian economy today, making true progress difficult for all but a privileged few. The Soviet queue for bread is gone, but the line never really ended. It just changed form. Now, it's a queue of paperwork, approvals, and endless bureaucracy. Getting anything done, registering a car, getting a permit, means navigating a maze of indifferent officials and absurd rules. The system isn't designed to serve people, but to control them. Bureaucracy is a tool for keeping citizens in check. This breeds learned helplessness. After enough rejections, you stop trying to change things. Instead, you look for shortcuts, connections, or bribes, just like in the Soviet days. The official way is impossible, so the unofficial way thrives. The curse ensures the system stays broken, and everyone learns to work around it. In the USSR, the real economy ran on connections and favors. Today, it's called corruption, and it's everywhere. Need a contract, a grade, or decent medical care? It's all negotiable if you know the right person or have the right envelope. The Soviet lesson was clear: official rules don't matter. Everything is flexible if you have connections. Now, it's billion-dollar deals and rigged tenders, not just a better cut of meat. Corruption is so normal, it's seen as survival, not crime. The result? No trust in police, courts, or politicians. Why follow the law when no one else does? The curse-off has turned Russia into a low-trust society, making real reform nearly impossible. The system is rigged, and everyone knows it. The Soviet curse includes a deep nostalgia for superpower status. Russia went from global heavyweight to regional power overnight, a national humiliation that still stings. This loss drives today's foreign policy obsession with NATO, clinging to influence and constant chest thumping. The Kremlin stokes pride and patriotism to distract from domestic problems. When you can't deliver prosperity, deliver pride. But the great power hangover is expensive and dangerous. Military spending drains resources from schools and hospitals. It isolates Russia and makes it unpredictable on the world stage. The curse makes it hard for Russia to accept a new, more modest role. Stuck chasing old glory, Russia risks sacrificing its future for the past. What about Russia's youth? They grew up with the internet, not the USSR. Surely they can break the curse. Many are globally connected and less susceptible to propaganda, but the system still shapes them. Schools teach sanitized history and Soviet-style patriotism. Dissent is discouraged, creating apathy and cynicism. Many of the brightest leave, fueling a brain drain. The state tries to co-opt youth culture, patriotic concerts, internet censorship, and managed school. The battle is on. A generation with the world in their pocket versus a system desperate to control them. Whether they break free or get absorbed will shape Russia's future. The curse is subtle, but it's still fighting for the next generation. Can Russia break the Soviet curse? It's possible, but incredibly hard. Real change means more than a new leader. It needs true democracy, rule of law, and a free press. The current system is built to prevent this. Those in power won't give it up easily. The economy must shift from state control and corruption to real opportunity for all. Most importantly, Russia needs to confront its past honestly. No more glorifying or sweeping it under the rug. Until that reckoning happens, the ghost will keep haunting the present. Breaking the curse means learning from tragedy, not repeating it. Russia's future depends on finally letting go of its Soviet shadow.